Today on the Big Six in 60, the Bulls have their new head coach.
I think it's a great hire.
Walker Kessler turns down a big offer from the Jazz.
What did Walker Kessler really just say no to?
And Bo Nix is back on the field for the Broncos.
Bo Nix back on the field.
This is the Big Six in 60, the 6 biggest national sports stories from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big Six in 60 starts now. Thank you for making the Big Six in 60 your first listen of the day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. The Bulls are hiring Tiago Splitter as their new head coach after his playoff push in Portland. The hosts at Locked On Bulls explain the hire.
Let's talk about this, man. How do you feel about the hire of Tiago Splitter?
I think it's a great hire. You look at his track record, it's really kind of sped up. He just started coaching in 2018, did his due diligence, did his climbing through the rankings, and he's good with player development. And you can look at that Portland Trailblazers.
You said
Pat is there
this morning.
Pat is there. The imposters in the room.
I said, I had to check, and I realized as I jumped in and saw C-Dub, I didn't check in with you.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, let's
but also
three together.
Now you're replacing me. No, I'm joking.
No. What's up, Pat?
We never had this combo together than on a couple live calls. So hey, we're gonna kick it off.
We're in the building. Man. Let's do it.
All right, Dub, you were talking about how you feel about Tiago as a hire, bro.
Yeah, I just think he's a pretty solid hire. He's good with player development. If you look back at the Portland Trailblazers from last season, it was a pretty difficult situation, I would think, with the young team. It seems like they're going nowhere, and he managed to get them to the playoffs. This is going to be similar, but it's not going to be the same with the Chicago Bulls. I think he's the right guy for the job early. Let's see if he can put forth the right coaching actions and see if he can really be a positive figure in that locker room.
Absolutely. Pat, I already know how you feel about the Splitter, so I'm gonna throw the question to you. I'm probably not gonna have to talk a lot this episode. I like that. Pat, the first question that we have here is, what do you think Tiago Splitter means for the development of Modest Buzelis? Let's start there. I think Modest is the one that sets to benefit the most from Tiago Splitter. How do you feel, Pat?
I don't know. Back to you, Hayes. No, I'm joking. No, honestly, I think it's going to be really good for the development of Modest because he's the kind of player who you can do so much with. And we saw Modest do so much more when he was in the G League, right? Like, he was a guy that was handling the basketball. And I'm not saying you're going to need that with Josh Giddey in the room, but, like, there was so much more to Modest's game that, Modest kind of got relegated to being a corner three and dunk type of guy, right? Or just go out there, put the ball up, and attack the rim. I think he's so much more than that as a player. I think he's got a nice push float in the middle. I think he's somebody that can facilitate the ball. That was something we were excited about when we drafted Modest Buzelis, and we saw none of that with him, with Billy Donovan as the head coach. So I think it's going to mean a lot for that conversation about Modest being more involved in the offense, possibly in a couple of different roles. But realistically, it's going to be on Modest to take over that. I don't think it has to do with Tiago Splitter putting them in good positions or not. Like, we're going to see this year, especially with Caleb Wilson coming in, if Modest Buzelis is going to say, this is my team and I'm about to take off. Because how many times have we seen this, right? Like, I say this so often. The player makes the coach. Very rarely does the coach make the player. Phil Jackson's a great coach. You can never take it away from him, but the triangle offense is amazing. When I can go, it didn't work. Michael, go be Michael. Kobe, go be Kobe, right? Like, any system that you have, you need a player to be great. So I think Tiago helps with a lot of things. But I want to see Modest take the reins finally and just go, give me this team and let me go to work.
Dub, how you feeling about that, man? How you feeling about what Tiago means for Modest?
This mother really not going to talk.
No, I'm moderating today.
He wasn't lying. He's not lying at all.
I need to get the cat here.
I agree with Pat in this sense. Yes, I do indeed think that Tiago Splitter can come in and help Montes with a couple of things. You could just look at Danny Avia last year and look at Shaden Sharp. A lot of people talk about Danny Avia. They don't talk about the kind of year that Shaden Sharp had as well. He had a career year in points per game as well.
That's a good point.
Montes Buzelis was already on a upward trajectory when it comes to development. He doubled points in a lot of other categories offensively on the basketball court. His three-point shooting percentage went down a little bit, but it took an uptick. He took more shots of them, and his free throw shooting went down a little bit as well. I think Montes Buzelis is the type of guy that coaches himself. He motivates himself. But the extra added knowledge in coaching and player development that a guy like Tiago Splitter brings with his championship pedigree, with all the quick experience, because I've only been coaching for about 8 years. I think he can help Montes Buzelis. I don't know if he can get him. He's not going to be the main call getting him to the next level, but he definitely can help him get to the next level for sure.
Yeah, and I know I joked about not talking. I think when you look at Modest, a lot of people feel like he's either going to be Giddey or Modest because of how much Giddey handles the ball. We'll talk about Josh Giddey here in the next segment, but I think Modest, just from the sense that he is what Tiago's offensive scheme is structured freedom. That's the way that he's described it. That's what he's talked about, right? And I don't think we can say that we had that under Billy Donovan. No knock or anything on Billy, but the reality is that everything for Modest under Billy Donovan in the last 2 years was either at the three-point line or at the rim. The fact that it's going to be more mid-range open to him, I think that just helps his development, because he's not going to have somebody saying, no, completely don't take that mid-range shot. He is going to have structure, though, where he's going to say, yeah, take the midi if it's there. Don't force it, though. Don't force it. Pass off the ball or get to the rim. Try to get a free throw. Try to draw a foul. And I think that's an important part for a player to develop as well, because as we see, if you are only at the three-point line or at the rim, teams are going to be like, okay, well, we're going to see if you're hot from three today. And if you're not driving, they're just going to force you to shoot. And that is part of the reason why Modest's three-point percentage did drop last year, is that he took a higher volume. And me and Pat talked about this. You take 1.5 to 2 three-pointers off it, Modest is probably a more efficient three-point shooter because he's doing more things. I think that's an important part for Modest's development, is just to have the complete floor open to him, but not in the sense just go out there and figure out. It's going to be structured in that freedom that's going to have. They're going to run actions to get mid-range shots open, and that's what an aspect of our offense I think we were missing a lot last year.
It's also just about going with what the flow of the game is that day. You're not going to shoot the three well every day. And when you get to the point where you're 1 for 5, maybe don't shoot no more. Or maybe, take one if they just wide open and they giving them to you, but maybe try to create something else from it. Modest got good enough to a point where he's not going to get wide open through. They're not going to take a three-point shot and not close out on you, because what he shoot 36% last season, got himself into a nice rhythm. When he was hot, and he was one of those players that if he got hot, you could be in trouble because he could put a lot of points up on you real quick. Use that to your advantage coming into this season. That's a threat that I think people are going to still be worried about. If you're not having a great shooting day, they're not going to change how they playing you. So drive, get to the bucket, get to that mid-range, because the one thing that we see when they drive is a lot of times people are trying to get out of the way. That creates open shots within the mid-range. Where's that pull-up? Where's that float? Those are the things that I think you're going to want to see develop out of him. And I'll tell you what, as funny as it is to say, watch out for this, because it was a Tiago special. Watch out for that wing mid-range shot becoming a big part of Modest's game. Because how often did we see Tiago Splitter in a playoff moment or in just throughout the regular season, somebody that you can count on where he didn't move from that spot very often. He's setting the screen. He's going right this spot. He's about to pull that mug. That could be something that I think becomes a staple in Modest's game. And I'll be real with you. I'm sitting here trying to go through my brain, bro. I can't think of a Modest pull-up mid-range.
The biggest stage in world soccer is here, and every match feels like it has the potential for a memorable moment. One goal can completely change the energy of a game, shift momentum, and alter the outcome in an instant. That's what makes tournament soccer so exciting, from the opening whistle to the final kick. Now FanDuel is giving fans another reason to stay locked into every match with every goal pays. Bet on a match and get bonus bets for every goal scored in that match. More goals mean more bonus bets. All you have to do is turn on your token. That's what I love about these tournaments. You can turn on a match between teams you don't normally follow, and suddenly one goal changes everything. The tension builds so quickly that you're invested before you even realize it, and now you get to benefit from each goal scored. From the opening whistle to the final kick, let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com now to get started. Welcome back to the Big Six in 60. Walker Kessler reportedly rejected Utah's 5-year, $140 million contract offer. David Locke with Locked On Jazz lays out what comes next.
We'll start, though, talking about restricted free agency, the flaw that it is, and what did Walker Kessler really just say no to. Today's show is brought to you by Odoo. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today, odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. According to multiple reports, Zach Lowe alludes to it in his podcast. Tim McMahon said it on with Spence Checketts on his show, The Drive, and Ben Anderson has confirmed it. The Utah Jazz reportedly offered Walker Kessler a 5-year, $140 million deal, and Walker Kessler said no. Your mind just exploded. You're flabbergasted by this. On the surface, that reaction makes total sense. Let's, though, walk through the circumstances, the rules surrounding it, and why Walker Kessler would possibly say no, and what is really going on here. There are some facts here that are very clear. If you have any doubt whether the Utah Jazz believe Walker Kessler is an important part of their future, that's out the window. You know that to be true now. You should not have any doubts. Because if the Jazz offered Walker Kessler a 5-year, $140 million deal, they are interested in keeping Walker Kessler. That between 25 and 30 is probably a bigger number than fits nicely into the Jazz cap situation with Jaren Jackson and Lauri Markkanen on the books, with Keontae coming for an extension. With those things happening, that number is fair market value, not great for the Jazz. And so now, if you have a talented player, you're not going to always get to what's great for the Jazz. The Jazz would love to have that in under 25, but it's not going to happen because Walker's worth more than 25. Is Walker worth more than 30 or 40, though? Walker's camp thinks so. So let's first start on the offer. If, in fact, the reports are true, and I trust actually all three of those people immensely, Ben Anderson's terrific, there are 3 centers in the NBA that make more than 50. Okay? Jokic, Anthony Davis, and Embiid. There are 3 centers that make more than 40. Bam Adebayo, Chet Holmgren, and Domantas Sabonis. There are 2 centers in the NBA that make more than 30. Rudy Gobert and Alperen Şengün. And there are 5 centers in the NBA that make about 20, in the 20s. Zubac, Claxton, Miles Turner, Jared Allen, and Isaiah Hartenstein. If I'm in Walker Kessler's camp, I could try to argue we're better than Nick Claxton, we're going to be better than Miles Turner, we're going to be better than Jared Allen, and we're going to be better than Isaiah Hartenstein. And if I'm not in Walker Kessler's camp and I'm just a neutral observer, I'd say when Walker's played Nick Claxton, there have been a few times where Nick Claxton kicked his butt. Zubac has a better track record of a career. Miles Turner is mercurial at best. Jared Allen and Walker Kessler seem very similar, and Isaiah Hartenstein got overpaid a little bit because Oklahoma City had the cap space at the time to do it. And there's 4 or 5 centers that are at 15 plus million, which are Wendell Carter Jr., Daniel Gafford, Okongwu, and of course, Jakob Poeltl. And I would argue that Walker's probably better than them. At times, Walker has been not better than Gafford or Poeltl or Wendell Carter Jr., but I would probably be fine to understand that he's better than that. So to me, this offer is completely fair. Completely fair. And actually, more than fair, a commitment to, hey, we believe in you. But Gobert and Şengün have been all-stars. Bam Adebayo, Chet Holmgren, and Sabonis have been all-stars. Not only has Walker not been an all-star, his availability has been limited. So to me, very, very fair offer. So why possibly? Okay. So then this must mean that Walker Kessler really is mad at the Jazz. Okay, let's walk through. Now we get into the fact that restricted free agency is fundamentally flawed. Restricted free agency works under one circumstance. And when I say works in a sense that both sides feel comfortable in a negotiation. Restricted free agency works if you're a max player. You just get the max player, you're happy, and you move on. The problem with restricted free agency is the player is at such a disadvantage for the entire process that they have to be loud. They have to be loud. They have no choice. So the Jazz make this offer, which is completely fair. And now Walker Kessler's camp goes to Sam Amick, and they write the article of The Athletic about how Walker's upset and it becomes a national story. And the next day, the offer number comes out. And the offer number comes out, however it happened, and it's a very fair offer. So the message has now been sent to all of the other teams in the NBA. By the way, the Jazz offered 5 years, 140. You're going to have to go mid to upper 30s if you want to get Walker and have us not match it. We're functioning over the cap. We're going to match it. So salvo one in this system, and there's just nothing else that's going to happen here, was Walker's camp saying they're upset, trying to signal to the rest of the NBA, hey, as you make your plans, Walker's upset. He's more than willing to go somewhere else. He wants more money than he's getting offered. And then the next day, mysteriously, a really fair offer gets leaked out and suddenly is available to everyone. And now everyone knows, oh, the Walker offer, if the Lakers or the Bulls or the Hawks or someone wants to go after the Nets, want to go after Walker, they're going to have to go to 35. They're going to have to decide that Walker's the seventh, worth being the seventh highest paid center in the NBA. So many would think Karl Anthony Towns is, and then he's the eighth. I mean, there's some players that kind of meld in that I don't have counted here. And so this is the negotiation. Walker's only thing he can do right now is exactly what he did. Now hope that someone else gives him an offer. And then the Jazz either match it or they don't. Well, why doesn't Walker just take the offer? It's perfectly fair. Because really, truly, as a player, you have 2, maybe 3 times you're getting paid in your career. And so you're trying to get every penny you can. Understandable. Totally fine. You're going to get paid twice, maybe 3 times in your NBA career. The second part of it is, why sign it now? The same reason that the Jazz make this opening offer, and now we're just going to sit back until whatever the date is. I don't have it, but it's going to be somewhere around like October 1st. And we're going to sit here on this the whole time. And there's a day where this, like the open free agents, right now it's this closed window you can offer, and maybe he takes it. He's not going to take it. His group's not going to take it. But you've set the market, and you've shown you're willing to pay him, and they can be upset, but they can't really be that upset. And now this is literally going to sit unless Walker gets an offer. And then the Jazz will have 48 hours to react. And I will be surprised if Walker gets an offer. With the number out there at 5,140, the Jazz having signaled to the NBA that they're willing to pay it, I will be surprised if somebody offers Walker $35 million. Not impossible, just surprised. And so now we are literally, this is going to go on until right before opening day of training of the season, or whenever the day is. And Walker Kessler is going to sit there, and he's going to have 2 choices. He's going to have a 5-year, $140 million deal on the table, or he can play for 1 year for 14.6 so he can go be an unrestricted free agent. He can make a $122 million. It's actually more than that. $125 million gamble. bad leverage. And that's where restricted free agency is flawed. At the end of the game, the Jazz know that on the final day of this whole thing, Walker now has $140 million on the table, and his two choices if he doesn't get an offer are taking 5 years, 140, or taking 1 year, 14. And so Walker's screwed unless he can get an offer in the next period of time, which is why his agents are playing this game right now, because this is the only thing they can do to get another penny is to try to get him an offer. But the Jazz are going to sign him at 5 year, 140 in late September or early October, whenever the deadline is. That's how this is going to work. And it's a flawed system. And it puts people in adversary relationships. And we as a fan base have to actually understand that there's a game going on here. And the Jazz have to understand that there's a game going on here. And as much as people are going to bitch and complain about Walker this and Walker that, and the Jazz this and the Jazz that, depending which side you're on, it's just part of the process and it's forced upon us. And there's no other choice for this to happen. The idea that Walker just takes, oh, well, that's a fair offer. Thank you very much. And it goes, that's not how this works. He's got 2, maybe 3 contracts in his life. He's going to try to get every cent he can. And the Jazz, no, just as likely as the Jazz are going to go, oh, I know, Walker, we'd like to give you another 10 too. That's not going to happen either. The numbers are obscene. And so it's hard to grasp. But it's also the world they live in. But the fact of the matter is, the chances of a player who's been available about half the time of his NBA career walking from $124 million or $125 million on this late September, October date is not. Walker's on the Jazz roster as the starting center next year.
Welcome back to the Big 6 in 60. Bo Nix is back on the field as the Broncos get him ready after ankle surgery. Cody Rourke and Zaire Bettinger with Locked On Broncos break it down.
Everybody wants to talk about Bo Nix back on the field for the first time since having ankle surgery, and we got some great insight from him. So, Sarah, let's dive into it. Great to see Bo. I mean, the first thing is when we got let through those practice gates, players are starting to stretch. They're getting ready to go through their whole ordeal. Everyone's looking for number 10. I'm going to set up my camera to capture footage because that was the hot topic of Tuesday's practice at minicamp.
And I love it, Cody. I mean, we got to hear from Bo Nix as well. I know you and I kind of entered this week wondering, are we going to be able to hear from Bo Nix? Are they going to kind of try to conceal some stuff? No, I think Bo's just out there operating at full confidence. I mean, that's what it seems to me. That was my major takeaway because obviously I only got to hear him at the podium as well as see some of the highlights from your reports as well as like what the Broncos put out there. And I love it, man. I really do. This is exactly what I think everybody's been wanting to just clear out that dark cloud, hanging over anything. And Bo obviously was super excited to be back. You could tell, you could just feel like that juice flowing after practice. He was really feeling it at the microphone. And I'm so pumped for him because now he kind of gets to take back control of that narrative, right? That was the whole thing that I think he took real issue with early on in this whole process is, hey, everybody's kind of talking about the timeline for me. Well, now he gets to go back to the podium and kind of start to, realign everybody. You just say, hey, like, I'm still me. I didn't die. It's a broken bone. Bones heal, so it was great to get to hear from him.
Well, and it was nice to just see him even throwing the football, too. He was a limited participant, didn't do any team-specific drills, but he did position drills with the quarterbacks. He worked with the running backs, and he also worked with the wide receivers as they went and they threw to the receivers and tight ends down in the end zone during individual periods. So it was nice to see there. But we also saw a little bit of sassy Bo Nix. And this is what I like about Bo, too, is I think a lot in his first couple of years, there are moments where Bo, you get a peek into his personality and he's got like this, fiery confidence amongst himself. But he was also asked a very important question about, will he be full go by the end of June? Sean Payton in Tuesday's press conference said that end of June, Bo will be fully cleared, ready to rock and roll. We know he's going to be ready to go before training camp even begins. But if it were up to Bo himself, he'd be full go right now.
Yeah, I could go full go right now if they wanted me to.
Keep that clip forever, Cody. I mean, we can use that in so many different instances. I really like that. I love it. Like you said, Bo was kind of being sassy. Sometimes when I feel like Bo was feeling at the podium today, I send the, painting fingernails emoji. I'm just like, hey, like, there's no worries right now. And Bo was giving off that vibe very much so. If for the Bluey fans out there, he was cheeky at the podium, definitely answering questions with the utmost confidence. But I like to hear that from him as well, because ultimately we wanted to know that he wasn't being limited because he was still suffering any setbacks, or he was still hurting or in pain, or the second operation was lingering. For him to come out and say, no, I could be a full go right now if they wanted me to, Bo, I think, has put wind in the sails of everybody else in Broncos country.
Yeah, and he was open about his whole surgery process too, right? The first one initially, and then what happened with the second one that ultimately everybody was talking about, like, wait, was there a setback? What was happening? Here's what Bo had to say about that.
Yeah, so the first one, obviously, right after the season, non-weight bearing for a couple of weeks, get back going. Felt pretty good. Still having a little bit of an issue with a bone spur. So what we did was even though I probably could have gone again, done the whole season again, it was just aggravated me for too long. So what we did was, since I was a little bit ahead, thought it best to go ahead and decompress it a little bit, and then still have plenty of time to get back for the summer.
What I heard there, Cody, is that Bo Nix was so healthy. He was like, you know what? I'm going to take care of this other thing right now while I'm still in process of recovering. I mean, once again, I think just that confidence that he's just brimming with I know the listeners can hear it, and those who are watching on YouTube can see it. You can feel it from him. Maybe it's because he became a hat guy. I mean, as a fellow hat guy myself, I don't think I've ever seen Bo Nix wear a hat before. He's worn hats every day out there at practice. I wonder what's going on with that. Like, did he become a hat guy? Nobody talked to him about that. They're asking him all these questions about his ankle. What about the hats, man? We need the hard-hitting info.
I was going to say, that must be a dad thing, because he obviously just recently became a father. I agree. In all my times covering Bo in the last 2 years, the only time I've seen him in a ball cap was our first OTA practice where he was kind of hiding. And then this week. So very, very interesting. Is Sean going to bring back the visor full time? Is Bo going to become a hat guy? Are we just now transitioning to true quarterback territory here? All jokes aside, Bo joking as normal too, especially like pre-practice and the stretches. One thing that Sean Payton did outline is that Bo is getting all the walkthrough reps in practice, before practice starts, pre-practice stuff. Now, if you attend Broncos training camp, this is usually what happens before they even go through and stretch. They have a pre-practice. And so they walk through everything. The receivers will walk their routes. They'll go through and talk to design. They'll throw where they need to be. The guys will be in coverage. Like, they go through all of this stuff all the time. So if you've ever been to a training camp practice, you've seen this before, where it's very snail's pace. So that is obviously a good sign. So he's going to be fully good to go. No limitations when training camp rolls around here. But we asked Sean Payton last week. I had a chance to bring up, year 3, the mobility factor. And Sean said, from a mobility standpoint, Bo's going to be completely clean. He's going to do all that stuff. And Bo, once again, because after he had the second operation, they removed the bone spur. He said that his doctor said, your ankle is as good as new. He had a very funny comment about his mobility and whether or not there was going to be any concern surrounding his ability to be able to move on the run.
Well, my concern is, they say it's, back healthy, as good as new, and I hadn't really been like that in a couple of years. So my concern is maybe move around a little bit better.
I love it. I think that was my favorite quote that he had, Cody. That was the best one. He was really feeling it. I know I've said that before, but like, that is also kind of true, right? Because NFL players, they deal with those dings, the bruises, just kind of the wear and tear on your body year after year. Not that they don't take care of themselves, but ultimately, you get an opportunity where it's like, hey, you have to kind of sit out for a bit. You have to be no pressure on that ankle whatsoever for a certain amount of time. And you have to rehab it. You have to strengthen it. It just carries a different level of intentionality with the way that you take care of it. And so for Bo, it's kind of just like, all right, we already know, like, he's registering 21 miles per hour on the in-game GPS. Like, how much faster can this guy be, and how much of an asset can that be to his game? I don't think anybody in Broncos country wants him to be carrying the ball, 100 times or 200 times a season, obviously, right? But we want to see him be that dual threat and get out on the move. Like I said before, more throws on the run than any other quarterback in the NFL last year, more throws on the run outside the pocket. So that is part of his game. That is part of what makes him great. What does Sean Payton call it? The secret sauce, or his, superpower, or whatever that is. That is true of Bo Nix.
Yeah, and it's good that that's not going to change. I think that was a concern that maybe a lot of fans had in the back of their minds after he had the first surgery and even after he had the cleanup procedure. But just, it goes to show, even Bo said it himself, a lot of people, they'll hear things, they'll get secondhand sources, but they won't know the actual information. And Bo even told the story about, he was at the park And these little kids are asking him, are your ankles crooked? Are they going to be crooked? Because they're reading whatever the heck's on social media. By the way, keep your kids off social media, folks. It's a dangerous place out there, especially for misinformation. But Bo, obviously, he had a crack at that, and he kind of laughed it off and said, I'm good. It's not the end of the world. It's a broken bone. It happens. Bones do heal, which is obviously a good sign. And the Broncos and Bo specifically, they have the best medical staff and training staff and equipment that you could possibly have if you're dealing with injuries. So I imagine they're going to be very, very careful when it comes to how they progress Bo along. And then they're going to unleash him. And then the rest of the NFL, they got to watch out for that here.
Welcome back to the Big Six in 60. Brendan Sorsby is leaving Texas Tech, forcing the Red Raiders to reset at quarterback. Chris Level and Casey Cowan with Locked On Texas Tech sort through the fallout.
We've got a resolution of sorts, at least it sounds like on the home front. Brendan Sorsby, Texas Tech, parting ways. The gavels will fall silent. The sternly worded letters will cease to be written. And this wild summer experience will come to at least sort of an end. The noise will linger on, I have no doubt, and the reactions are pouring in, unhinged, hinged, somewhere in between. But Chris, that's essentially going to be the take, I think, from Red Raiders far and wide, a variety of opinions as to this from the very beginning, now to whatever end this represents. As we come into Monday afternoon and evening, knowing anything is still possible, and actually on a recent episode that you and I discussed this supplemental draft timeline, we considered it still an escape hatch of sorts and a ripcord that could be pulled. I don't know if this decision's only defined by NFL interests, but nonetheless, this decision and the possibility began to gain quite a bit of steam in recent minutes, hours, half hours, quarter hours. And here we sit now with Brendan Sorsby and Texas Tech parting ways.
This is Will Hammond's team now. And maybe it always was. So I think that we were first tipped off by Coach McGuire that the noise was clearly being heard by folks around Brendan Sorsby, namely his folks and all that. And I think they had a genuine, concern for their own kid, but also this is really loud. This is a lot. And it continued to be louder and even more a lot when you start getting governors and attorney generals and a league going after it. And everybody's not going to schedule you anymore. And I just, you sense that would everybody see this through? I think that, if I could phrase this the right way, I think that Texas Tech felt they did what was right in backing this athlete, this student athlete, for his issue. And I think that it may have taken a bit too long, and maybe you had to get nudged by the public, I don't know, or the proceedings. But I think that Brendan Sorsby just or his camp were I don't know if we're wanting to do this, whether it was to put my own self through this or I don't want to put Texas Tech through this. Now, the frustrating thing, Cowan, is, and we said this a couple of times last week, this was ultimately on the table, could have been like a lose-lose, in that you could go through all this, get all this criticism, put yourself through it, and then ultimately not get the player. And that's how this has ended up. Had that judge ruled a different way, most of this is probably avoided, but that's not what happened. And everybody will poke and laugh and all that at the decision or at Texas Tech. But here locally, it now becomes about football again, and it becomes about closure and who the leader is and a rehab timetable and everything else. And I think that's a good thing, because I think this thing was going to be a dang circus the rest of the summer and throughout. And And it, to a certain extent, it may very well still be, but a much different kind of circus. And now it comes back to, now you have a team with integrity out there. Now if you win every game like you did last year by 20 plus points, nobody can point to integrity or lack thereof, or just play straight up, man. You know, we don't trust everything that's going. I mean, whatever that things were being said. But yeah, here we are. But I'm glad that we're on the other side of it. It's just, it sucks that everybody got put through all of this, and I don't know how much damage has been done. I really don't know if I have a good feel for that yet. I don't know if you have a different opinion on that, but I don't know, because you never played anybody that was, yes, you indicated to conference officials that you intended to, but it never got to that point. And so anyway, here we go.
No, it'll be fun now to see how they chew up and spit out Cincinnati and Indiana, since they actually did utilize said player. But otherwise, I think I'm just reminded of a couple of things, Chris. You can't say these Red Raiders won't go to bat for their players. And you can't say that this is why men just don't bring up mental health. I don't think this whole experience over the last 60 days, let that be a lesson to us as well. I think this decision this far into it, a little tough to stomach, even if you were wanting just a quick resolution or to just bail out, still a little bit tough to stomach given how much you've invested in this in so many different ways, many of them intangible. And you're talking about, reputational impact, things like that. I honestly feel like that will be water under a bridge in a fairly quick amount of time. I think you'll still hear it from the peanut gallery, but I don't know that anybody's concerned about that necessarily, unless you're just going to war on the internet every day. Don't recommend that. I think otherwise, if you are a winner, you will fuel plenty of this fire, and you'll be glad to, because you'll be winning football games and you'll be relevant, and this will be some of the ammunition that'll be cast your way, and that's all good. But I do think there's a little bit of something to be said about how far you had gone in this process, and then have the player make the decision. I'm not sure how you feel. I wanted to ask about a mutual parting of ways, or parting amicably, or whatever way you describe it. Sometimes maybe in a divorce, when it was definitely that one person that was the catalyst to it all. So what do we make of those terms? Because I was curious about the verbiage when we started thinking about this being a possibility.
Yeah, will we ever know the truth there, or we ever know how? I mean, I just feel like we were publicly tipped off by kind of some uneasiness last week. Joey mentioned this multiple times, once in Houston and once on a video that Texas Tech released. And I think that ultimately, maybe, I don't know if the right way is won out, but that was maybe, hey, I just don't know if I'm up for this, or I want to put you through this. It doesn't really matter. The result is the same. And I guess if he or they come to you, you either can do, hey, we got this, we're good, like, calm down, or you go, yeah, this is a lot. I don't know if we'll ever know ultimately what happened here.
And it doesn't really matter, just for grudge sake is what I'm asking for, because I'm kind of curious about how Brendan Sorsby, the character, will be viewed by Red Raider fans for time to come.
It probably won't be positive, just because he will get blamed for a lot of the baggage, or any reputation, as you mentioned, that harm that was done, schedule. I mean, anything. It's just going to be all for naught. And I'll be interested to see if and when he ever does say anything. I think one would hope that you hear from him a very sincere thank you for the support and the backing, because there's a lot of time, money, angst, just a lot that everybody's been put through because of this situation. And again, the university and Joey and Cody and Kirby and President Scuba, that was their choice, but it just it bared no fruit. And that's the frustrating part, is that you do all this, and then it's just a big bag of nothing. But if it was going to jeopardize you playing in the Big 12 title game, because now I look at it like, one, this hasn't clearly hurt your reputation in the near as it relates to recruiting. You're just rolling. I mean, you rolled this past weekend. You've got more coming up this way. I mean, so you're rolling on that front.
And I think your fan base was uneasy if divided, but I don't think it was some type of major divide or anything. I think among the natives, Red Raider support still there.
It was definitely there was definitely like a lot of support, but also a lot of, hey man, like this isn't going well, or like you can't do this, or you can't play this kid. We saw all that in our show comments and on redraidersports.com and on social media and all that. You saw plenty. But I hate that people got drugged through this, that I think came at it from like a good place. And it's just that's the part that's like the hardest part. And really, but I'll say this. I think the best thing that you have with this is closure. There is no what's next with this. Your focus clearly turns to Will Hammond.
Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing software. The best organizations know that success isn't just about talent. It's about having everyone working toward the same goal. And that's true in sports just as it is in business. The Knicks acquired a bunch of pieces from different teams. Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, and got everyone pulling in the same direction. It wasn't just one great player or coach. It was a coordinated effort across the entire organization that made it successful. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. Welcome back to the Big Six in 60. Brendan Sorsby is headed to the NFL's supplemental draft, but teams like the Jets may be better off staying away. John Butchko with Locked On Jets talks it through.
Our first question. John, I know you've said that you think the Jets should stay away from Sorsby if he enters the supplemental draft, but now that he's in, is there a point where you'd feel comfortable taking him? I don't see what the big deal is if the Jets use a 6th or 7th round pick on him. Well, that's a good question. And if you have not been following this whole situation, Brendan Sorsby is a college quarterback. He transferred this offseason from Cincinnati to Texas Tech, and that was viewed as one of the biggest offseason gets in college football because Texas Tech had a dominant defense last year, as you may know, because David Bailey was their best player. Where they really kind of struggled was on the offensive side of the ball. That really showed up in the Orange Bowl, and it was the college football quarterfinal where they couldn't get anything going against Oregon. So Texas Tech made a real focus on getting a quarterback. They got Brendan Sorsby, who is viewed as a legitimate NFL draft prospect. So that was viewed as one of the best additions of the offseason for a college football team. But the NCAA started investigating whether Sorsby had bet on games in the past, and his eligibility became a question mark. And there were lawsuits. Sorsby announced earlier this week that he was going to enter the NFL draft. And this has led to some intrigue because there are some analysts who think Sorsby was on his way to being a first-round pick. So this is a quarterback who maybe is a first-round prospect, according to some people, now entering the supplemental draft. And I know a lot of you know what the supplemental draft is, but in case you don't, the NFL actually has 2 drafts every year. There's the one you're familiar with, which happens late April, early May, where the whole league gets together. It's televised. Teams pick for 7 rounds. You know, it's one of the big events of the year. The supplemental draft is a much smaller scale. It happens months after the regular NFL draft. And it's for players who decide they want to enter the NFL after the filing deadline for the regular draft. And usually it's a situation where somebody realizes he's going to lose his eligibility for college, so he just decides to jump to the NFL. You are not required to pick a player in the supplemental draft. In fact, in any given year, there's usually only like 1 to 2 players at most who enter the supplemental draft. It's a silent auction. You essentially can use a future draft pick to select a player. So you say, let's say there's a player out there and the Jets say, we want to bid a 3rd round pick on him. Well, if the Jets have the high bid, if nobody bids higher than the 3rd round pick, the Jets get him. And the Jets lose their 3rd round pick in the next year's regular NFL draft. If the Jets bid a 3rd round pick and some other team bids a 2nd round pick, the team that bids the 2nd round pick gets him. Jets keep all their picks for next year. The team that bid the 2nd round pick gets the player, but loses their 2nd round pick in next year's NFL draft. So there's all this speculation. Is a team going to use a 2nd round pick on Sorsby because he's such a decorated quarterback prospect? Is a team, maybe some team could even use a 1st round pick on him? But I think the Jets should stay away. There are 2 reasons I say this. Number one, the league does have the ability to suspend Sorsby. And one thing we've seen in the NFL in the past is they do not want the supplemental draft to be a vehicle to escape discipline from college football. And Sorsby was on his way to potentially losing his eligibility. The parallel I draw, which is not exactly the same thing because the parallel was less serious, was Terrell Pryor back in 2011. He was looking at a 4-game suspension. He wasn't going to lose his whole eligibility like Sorsby was, but he was looking at a 4-game suspension over something that had happened at Ohio State. And you can look up what happened. He went to the NFL draft, and the NFL upheld the 4-game suspension. The NFL suspended him the first 4 games of his professional career because the league essentially did not want to establish a precedent where you could escape a college suspension by jumping to the NFL. The other aspect here is the optics, don't look great. I think when you're talking about when a player was being investigated for betting on games, it's something the NFL is going to take seriously. And we can have discussions about the NFL and how they deal with gambling, but we've seen in recent years that the NFL typically will put big suspension, will give players big suspension if they violate the league's personal conduct policy in terms of gambling. So there's no guarantee Sorsby's even going to be eligible. And, if you want to talk about like a 6th or 7th round pick, I mean, look, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Most 6th or 7th round picks don't pan out. But the thing is, like, when you draft a player in the 6th or 7th round, you at least know they're going to be eligible. And that's not clear until the league provides some sort of clarity on whether Sorsby's going to be eligible or not in the 2026 season, or when he's going to be eligible. I think it's very difficult to use a pick on him. And I certainly would not use a pick in the 3rd or 4th rounds. And part of this is I think the Jets need to start taking these 3rd and 4th round picks more seriously. One of the reasons the Jets have gotten into so much trouble, and this was true in the Joe Douglas era, was they just threw away a lot of mid-round picks. Douglas was decent. It actually wasn't bad, like in the top 50, like first round. If he had a 1st round pick or an early 2nd round pick, he actually found some decent players, but he got nothing after the top 50. And he threw 3rd round picks away. He traded one for Hassan Reddick. He traded one for Devontae Adams. He used one on Malachi Corley. We got to start valuing these 3rd and 4th round picks. Hitting in that range of the draft is one of the things that separates the good teams from the bad teams. So I would not use a 3rd or 4th round pick because there needs to be clarity on whether Sorsby will be eligible. But there's a second point that doesn't get raised as much. I'm not really convinced Sorsby's a great quarterback prospect. I think he's a guy whose game needs quite a bit of work. I look at him and I see a lot of troubling tendencies. Now, there is no such thing as a finished product entering the NFL. No quarterback enters the league and is ready to go, is completely ready to go. Everybody has something they need to work on when they enter the league. But the issues Sorsby has that need to be cleaned up are concerning to me because he's a guy whose footwork kind of falls apart for no reason. I mean, he sometimes is not under pressure. Sometimes he's got a clean pocket. He just kind of falls back. He doesn't step into his passes. And I see him bail on a lot of clean pockets. That's a troubling sign. You want someone who stands tall in the pocket and can deliver a football with authority. That's a key component of playing football effectively in the NFL at the quarterback position. And for me, and I know everybody has their own different viewpoints on this, but for me, those are 2 of the biggest red flags when you're just talking about an actual on the field evaluation. Could those improve with time, with more reps? Well, of course they could. But I don't like taking a quarterback high who has those flaws because I think those are some of the toughest flaws to coach out of a player. Some guys are able to overcome it, but many can't. And to me, Sorsby is a guy who is frequently overdrafted. This is the sort of quarterback, if you're just talking about like his tools, teams fall in love with big arm. Teams fall in love with the projectable tools. But there's a lot of nuance that goes into quarterback play. I think that quarterback is as much a thinking position as it is a physical position. I think I see moments where Sorsby is kind of slow processing defensive reads. And I think that this is the sort of guy who comes with some pretty big concerns just talking about his on the field ability. Again, like anybody can improve when they enter the NFL, but there are certain traits I try and stay away from more than others. And Sorsby scares me if we're talking like on the field, I'd have concerns about picking him in the first round because of the stuff he's got to improve on, because he's not a finished product. And I think the way people are viewing this right now is kind of like a get rich quick scheme. Like, oh, well, maybe we can get a franchise quarterback and only give up a second round pick. Well, that's a nice idea in theory, but Sorsby is not an elite quarterback prospect. He's a guy who maybe if he had a good year at Texas Tech would be looking at going in the first round, but that's making a big assumption. We don't know what kind of season he was going to have at Texas Tech. And we've watched over the last couple of years over and over, guys see their stock rise, guys see their stock fall based on what they do in their final college season. Fernando Mendoza, Joe Burrow, these were guys who went from completely off the radar to becoming the number one overall pick. Lots of guys who have fallen in recent years. Cade Klubnik was one. Cade Klubnik a year ago was looking at potentially being a first round pick. So we don't know how his final college season would have went. He may have overcome these flaws. He may have struggled with them, and those flaws may have dropped him down the draft board if he had stayed for a final college season. So I just think there are too many unknowns. I would not feel comfortable taking Sorsby. If you're going to take him, I mean, maybe I could see bidding a 6th or 7th round pick. The problem with that is he's not going to follow the 6th or 7th round. I mean, by all accounts, some team's going to take him much earlier than that. So I think some team's going to fall in love with the tools. I hope that team's not the Jets.
Welcome back to the Big Six in 60. Tom Izzo called out Michigan State leadership after more major turnover at the top. David Harns joins Matt Sheehan with Locked On Spartans to explain the frustration in East Lansing.
David, contrary to popular belief, I do not like being angry. However, I don't mind being justified in my anger. After I kind of had a little meltdown a few days ago on this show about everything unraveling at Michigan State, I did think to myself, did I go a little too hard there? Was that a little too cranked up to 11? And then I saw the Tom Izzo video that everyone has now seen. There was steam physically coming out of his ears. I looked like I was running a church camp in comparison to how pissed off Tom Izzo was here, and he said that he knew the reasons. And it wasn't just that. Jay Batt at the introductory press conference at Kentucky said, quote, "It's important to be a great teammate. And one of those things that sets up for great success in the long run here at UK is the alignment we have." And so that's from a president to the board of trustees. That seems to be where the anger should be guided. First and foremost, David, is that correct? Are we all right to be upset at the board? Should it be specific people on the board? Was it anything specific the board has done? Or is it just merely their existence? Because I'm white with rage. I just want to make sure I'm pointing at the right person here.
Yeah, it's been very weird lately because we have more articles. Well, not more, but we have way too many articles at Spartans Illustrated regarding board governance, why that matters. Why are we writing about the board of trustees? We're a sports site, right?
Right.
A Spartan sports site. And it's like, well, the reason is because they are screwing this up. And it's not all of them. I think that should be clear. Like, if you pay attention to this stuff, there's definitely a segmented group of people who are, pushing back, and some who are kind of in line with, the way the university leadership kind of wants to go. But it is kind of a big deal when you see all of this stuff bubbling out, because, boards of directors should not be acting like this. You shouldn't be having these meetings on a Sunday night where everybody's tuning in to see, with their popcorn, what's happening, what's going on, and they're yelling at each other. And you have a board of trustee member suing or threatening to sue the university. What? How can you run a university while you have threatened to sue it, and you're going to be going through the preparations to sue the university that you are tasked with running. Like, that is the most bizarre sentence that I can't believe that we're
outer
saying.
space. It is from outer space.
Yeah. And in your anger, I was going to say, when you were talking about that, like, the fact that your anger is aligned with Tom Izzo's anger, and Tom Izzo has, the information from the inside. He knows what's going on. So you and I both see a little bit, right? We have sources inside, and we know this and we know that, but we don't know as much as Tom Izzo knows. And, if he is leading the way, knowingly showing his anger in this scenario, then that there's something for him to be angry about. And if he does choose to come out and go even further into this at a podium, that's going to be some must-see TV, as they used to say. But I wouldn't want to be kind of on the receiving end of that. Tom can really, let people have it if he does.
We've seen Izzo upset like once or twice in his 3-decade-long career here, right? Like, when a guy misses a box out, it kind of lets you hear about it. On a real note, there were some pictures on social media. He clearly had an event at his house yesterday. He looked like his head was going to explode, even at this nice little fun, like, charitable event that he was having in his house. This has really, really gotten under his skin. So, yeah, that's kind of my next question, though, is he has seen how the sausage has been made here for quite some time. He's not in all these meetings, but he knows as much as anyone. And Chris Solari from the Free Press, he wrote just a great history piece on how the board has been a gong show for much longer than just now. But David, with your education, your information, what you know, is this the worst it's ever been? Or has it always just kind of been on this plateau of nonsense ever since you could even remember?
It's hard because it's just like a different version of it now, right? Like,
great, awesome.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just a different kind of stupid. It's always been something. I graduated from Michigan State in 1999, and it just seems like it's always been something along the way. Now, if we're ranking it, like, how stupid is this right now? It's got to be up there pretty high to have finally brought a president in and agreed with him that you were going to govern in a way that would make it feasible and possible for him to, run things the way a president who wants to be here and wants to put things in place can and should run it. And, I don't know Jay Batt very well. I've seen him, talk to him a little bit here and there. But I've actually gotten to know Kevin a little bit more than the normal, just in his role as president. My son is a freshman at Michigan State, so I got to see him in a role like that. And, he appears to be, from all accounts, just as good of a guy as he appears to be.
Right.
And he appears to be a good leader. He appears to be a good, somebody who actually cares. I know that there's been incidents around the university where he has gone out of his way to reach out to families in need and who are going through really tough things. And he did it as a human being, as a person. And so the fact that we couldn't get a board to figure out a way to not piss him off so much that he had to leave is telling. And it's like, how can we not figure this out? And there's a lot of blame to pass around. But I would caution just to say it's an 8-member board. Not all 8 members are deserving of equal, treatment or equal hatred. But there is a few that probably deserve your ire.
I don't even know what to say right now. I do have a list of questions in front of me. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just so upset again, and I'm trying to laugh through this anger. I'm just so upset right now. Yeah, you morons. All right. Anyway, let's get the train back on the tracks here. Now what? Does it get any better? David, you had an awesome piece over at Spartans Illustrated, which I'm sure you'll touch on for a little bit here. But truly, what made me feel even more helpless than I already originally felt before Izzo got in front of that camera, well, it was his quote here, because he said, quote, "What happened with our president is ridiculous." He said it. We know the reasons, and I'm ashamed and disgusted, hurt. Spartan Nation better stand up, all 600,000 of them. And he later went on to say, and don't anyone in this room think and say, well, you're powerful. If I was powerful, this wouldn't be this way. Power is in the majority. God bless America. If Tom effing Izzo doesn't have enough pull, enough clout to like really make any change just by himself. What can happen? I know that there's a petition out there. It's got a few thousand signatures, but like we're stuck here forever, David, aren't we? Just shoot us straight.
My sons are big Spartan fans, and they sent me the change.org petition. I said you can sign it. Like change.org positions, it's not gonna really do anything. I said, but if it makes you feel better, go ahead. I said, really the thing that has to happen is there needs to be a mechanism that forces, a few trustees to move along. And, there are a couple different ways to accomplish that. Some of my colleagues and friends are saying that they're just going to continue to show up to meetings and just keep the pressure on. They're going to keep the pressure on online, make it super uncomfortable for Board of Trustee members to want to be here. Hopefully they resign.
That's all for today's Big Six in 60. If you follow basketball, football, or college sports, the Big 3 in 30 has a half hour on the biggest news in the NFL, the NBA, and on campus, going up every weekday just like this one. Just search the Big 3 in 30 NBA, the Big 3 in 30 NFL, or the Big 3 in 30 college, wherever you're listening or watching now. Thanks again for tuning in to the Big Six in 60.